Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's lecture. And we have talked about developmental psychology. We have talked about wellness. And then this week, we are going to talk about some topics related to stress. And welcome to week 6. Let's start the lecture. So today, we are going to cover these parts. So first of all, we are going to talk about what stress is. And then we are going to talk about the sources of stress. Where does this stress come from? And then we'll talk about the negative consequences or effects of stress. And the last part is is about how to respond to stress, how to manage stress, how to reduce stress. And then there are different kinds of responses, but we'll talk about some responses that do not work, and then we're going to talk about some responses that work. So there are some strategies that can help us effectively reduce stress. So first of all, we need to understand what stress is. So from the definition of from the definition in the textbook, a stress is a event or a series of events that lead to strain. So specifically, what is the strain? So a strain may include a series of responses or biological responses, psychological responses, emotional responses to some kind of events. There may be one event or there may be multiple events. So the basic story is that in your life, something happened. There are some events that occurred in your life, and those events make you feel stressful so that you have different reactions to those stressful events. Stress may often result in or lead to some health problems because they bring some negative effects or the consequences to your physical health or to your psychological health. So that's why stress might be a really serious problem because it causes both physical and psychological problems. But not every stress is bad. There is a particular form of stress that may lead to better results, may lead to better consequences. That is called eustress. You can see here, eustress. So stress is usually considered as bad, as negative, but eustress, which is a part of the stress, usually be viewed as good stress, or the stress can lead to better results. So eustress, when we face eustress, we can see them as challenges. So we may meet a lot of challenges in our life. If we can find solutions to overcome those challenges, we can grow, we can be better, we can gain more skills, we can be more adaptable to the challenging life. You know that there can be multiple and endless challenges in our life. We might meet bigger challenges in the future. So what if we meet some challenges that are smaller, within a small scale? We can practice and find solutions to overcome those challenges. We can grow. We can be better at facing those issues. So in this sense, stress can be good, can be eustress. Okay. And distress is another form of stress. Distress is often the stress that we think of, we talk about in everyday life. So distress brings negative effects to our physical health and also psychological health and emotional health. So in this lecture and in everyday life, when we talk about stress, we often talk about distress instead of eustress. So eustress may bring positive consequences, but distress bring negative consequences. So think about these two questions. In school, at Chaffey College, what make you stressful? So what factors, what reasons, what events make you stressful in college, in school, in your school life? You can think about it and give an answer. And also you can ask other people what make them stressful in their life. And you can summarize the common characteristics. So you may see something that is common among you and other people's life. So something cause you to be stressful, or the same reasons may cause other people to be stressful. You can summarize those common characteristics. And you can pause the video right now and think about these two questions. So the next question we need to think about is, where does stress come from? So in other words, what make you stressful? What make people stressful? What are the sources of stress? So the first aspect, first big source of stress is from the environment, from the physical environment, natural environment, or the social environment. So some kind of events may happen. Some kind of events are out of your control. You cannot control those events, but those events just happen in your life. Those events are really, they are not positive events. They are negative. They are frustrating. They frustrate you, make you unhealthy. So events can be from the physical environment, such as pollution, air pollution, water pollution, and so forth. And there is noise in the environment. So people may get annoyed with the noise that they cannot control. So those noise can bring stress to their life. And also the events made from the lifestyles that are not really healthy. So some lifestyles are not healthy, such as poor sleeping habits, specifically staying up really late in the night may bring stress, or smoking may bring stress. And also having meals or having dinners without a regular schedule also may also bring stress. So last week we talked about eating regularly is very important. It's really important to have 3 meals a day or even 2 meals a day, but unless you eat every meal on the relatively fixed time every day, that is better. But if you have a meal, whatever, like whenever you want to eat, you do not have a really regular eating habits, that may bring stress as well. And also there are some undesired events from the social environment, such as traffic jams, uh, such as some unpleasant social environments, some embarrassing social situations. So those events may lead to stress as well. And also some reasons, some events from the society, economic crisis, all kinds of discrimination, like racial discrimination or gender or sex discrimination, age discrimination, and other kinds of discrimination. So all those negative events in the society make people really stressful. And I think last year and this year, the pandemic of COVID-19 make people really stressful. I heard that last year in June, the medical doctors run out of medicines for depression. Means that a lot of people got depression disorders in June last year, and they went to doctors and their prescribed depression medicines, and the medicines were running out. It means that a lot of people are really stressful in the life that is under the pandemic, because there may be multiple events like people couldn't go out, couldn't hang out with their friends, so they feel lonely. So those factors also make people really stressful because they cannot really have a normal social life, and also they may lost their jobs. That makes really stressful. That can be like that has the same effect with the economic crisis. Actually, almost every country in the world last year had an economic crisis. The prices of everything has gone up, but they lost their incomes. They lost their jobs. So that is really, really stressful. And there are some undesired social situations, like interpersonal situations, such as sexual harassment and rape. Maybe there are other really undesired social situations, but sexual harassment and rape are definitely typical examples of interpersonal factors that lead to really severe stress. Because people do not want to meet those kinds of situations, but they happen. Those events could occur. So that's why people are really stressful about these events. So all these kinds of events in your life, in the physical environment or in the social life, may lead to stressful, may be really, really frustrating and lead to stress and cause many undesired negative consequences. And you can see what events cause you to be stressful in school. Physical environment or some lifestyles in school that are not healthy, or some events that are not as desired, or some factors in the society in school. You may confront with discrimination or other social phenomena, and you can think about this. You can combine your daily experiences with these factors in this slide and see what kind of events cause you to be really, really stressful in school and also in your life. So stress can come from the outside events, the external events, but sometimes the stress come from your own mind, from your inner spiritual world. So there can be some kind of psychological factors that lead to stress. Sometimes we are frustrated. Uh, it means that we want to achieve some kind of goal. We want to get something. We want to go somewhere, but we feel that we meet the difficulties. We cannot just directly get that thing or directly go there. or directly achieve that goal without any difficulties. We feel that something blocks on the way. We want to go there. We are here and we want to go there. But on the way from here to there are different blocks that block you, that stop you from going there. So it might not be physical difficulties, or it might be difficulties in your life. So the feeling of frustration actually causes you to be really, really stressful. So you can think about any stories in your life that frustration causes stress. Maybe there are not particular events in your life have occur, like air pollution or traffic jams, but you still feel stressful because you have a feeling of frustration. You can think about those moments. Yeah, so sometimes the conflicts inside or internal conflicts make you really frustrated and stressful. So internal conflict refers to uh, that in your mind there are two or even more motivations or impulses that are not compatible, that they conflict each other. There are different motivations. You want the different things, but those desires or impulses or motivations, they conflict each other. They cannot get along with get along well with each other. So there are three kinds of internal conflicts. In the first one is refers to the situation that you want this and also you want that, but you can only get one. For example, you tonight you want to go to this restaurant and to get the pasta, for example, but also you want to get to another restaurant to get the fried chicken. Uh, but you have a limited budget. You do not have enough money to buy all of them, both of them. You only can get one. So there are two incompatible motivations that are conflicting in your mind at that moment. So you feel frustrated. I wanted both, but I can only get one. Which one do I choose? I'm not satisfied to choose either of them. I want both, but the fact is I can only get one. So that's internal one type of internal conflict. That's called approach conflict. So you want to approach one thing and another thing, and the two things are conflicting. And in the second situation, there are two things that you do not want to get. You do not you want neither of the two things. You want to get rid of the two things, but you have to get one. You have to get one negative consequence. You can you have to get one of the negative things that you want to get rid of. So that's also the conflict. That's called avoidance conflicts. And in the third situation, that is maybe more common in everyday life. There are two options at that moment, and every option has both positive and negative elements. So there are pros and cons for each option. So in this moment, you may really hesitate to choose one of them. You need to choose one of them. Uh, it's really difficult because every option has both positive side and negative side. None of the options is perfect. So you need to decide which option to choose. Uh, For example, if you want to buy a house, like what house do you buy? Which house do you buy? So you found there are two kinds of houses. One house is really close to the place there where you work. So if you buy that house, you have much less traffic time, much less time on the commute on traffic. But that house is really small, a really small one because it's in the downtown. You cannot afford the larger house. Or even there in downtown, there are no bigger houses. Uh, the other option is that there are some houses in really far away in the suburbs, in the countryside. And the advantage of those houses is that the houses are so big, so spacious. But if you buy that house in the countryside, you need to take much longer time to commute to go to work. So you can see in this situation, every option has uh, positive elements and also has negative elements. You need to choose one out of the two. So in this situation, the conflict in your mind is called approach avoidance conflict. So oftentimes we have at least one of the internal conflicts in our mind. That's often a regular thing in our daily life. Okay, so that's two major sources of stress. So the stress may come from the environment, from the external events, or may from the mind, from the spiritual inner world. There are frustration in the mind. There are internal conflicts. And the question that you can think about right now is, how does stress influence you? You can pause the video and think about the answer. So we have talked about what stress is. We have talked about what causes stress. But why do we care about stress? Why do we care about those like sources? Because they bring negative consequences, or maybe good consequences. So how you can think about how does stress influence your life, influence you? So you can summarize the different aspects. So next we can talk about what stress does to us, to people. So we can talk about effects of stress. So first of all, we can talk about how stress is created in our physical body. So in our nervous system, there's one part that is responsible for reacting to stress. There's a part of a system can be activated when we have stress, when we meet some kind of difficulties in our life. But at the beginning, when our ancestors, they majorly uh, they majorly respond to some kind of a physical threats in life, just like this picture in the slide. You know, our ancestors they need to go hunting every day outside. So those some kind of animals are really dangerous, like lions, tigers, and other dangerous animals. And also they may meet different kinds of unexpected events, such as earthquakes, or storms, rainstorms, all kinds of natural disasters, and all kinds of dangerous animals, poisonous plants. So all those are physical threats they might meet different kinds of physical threats in your life. And gradually, there is a function in the neural system that every time people meet the physical threat in life, that part of the neural system can be activated. And that is a response to the physical threat. And that kind of responses help the people to have a better reactions to cope with the threats, to handle the threats. So this kind of response is called a fight or flight response. So when this response is activated, people tend to have one of the two actions. The one action is to directly facing the stress, directly facing the threat is to fight with the threat. For example, fight with the dangerous animal, beat with them. And the other option of the responses is to go away, is to escape from the dangerous situation. That the response is called flight. It's like running away from the situation. That's too dangerous. I cannot cope with that situation, so that I run away. That makes sense. So the neural system in our body make us have a tendency to have either of the two responses when we have threats in our life, either to fight with the stress or running away from the stress. And it makes sense. Both of the two reactions make sense because we need to cope with that threat anyway in our daily life. So that's overall from many years, many generations of uh, evolution. Human bodies tend to have one of those responses when facing threats. So, but the assumption is that the condition to generate this kind of fight or flight response is that we must believe there is a threat in our life. So the assumption of to have this kind of response is that we need to cognitively believe, we need to perceive that there is a threat in life. For example, in front of me, there is a tiger chasing me. So I suddenly recognize or perceive that, oh, there is a dangerous animal that is chasing me. There is a threat in my life right now at this moment. So the fight or flight response will be generated and I need to react to that. But the problem is that in modern days, in our life, there are few physical threats. We cannot really meet dangerous animals in the society. Facing the natural disaster like earthquakes, that's really rare. And also other kinds of events like a fire or rainstorms. We are not really suffering from those natural events, natural disasters very often. So in our life, actually, there are really few physical threats. So you can think about your own life. When you have stress, what kind of events are those? Like traffic jams, like a frustration, failure, or noises, uh, unhealthy lifestyles. So those events are not physical threats. Instead, more of the majority of those events are more about the social or societal or psychological. So you may have a psychological threats more often when you feel stressful. But our body is really adapt to the life of our ancestors. Our this kind of a neural system is actually is well built for physical threats because it generates fight or flight response. So you can think about this question right now. Does fight or flight response work well to respond to some kind of a psychological threat or social threat? You can think about this question. We use this our bodies use the system that are really traditional and old to respond to some situations that are pretty new, some situations that only modern people can meet. So you can think about whether this works or not. So when there is fight or flight response in our body, there are some chemical or biological changes in our physical bodies. There are some hormones that are responsible for stress. So stress hormones are released because our neural system generates the fight or flight response, and the neural system will send the orders to the hormone systems. So some kind of hormones are released. Those hormones are responsible for reacting to stress. So stress hormones can be released. If the stress hormones are released too much too often, there are too many stress hormones in our blood, in our physical bodies, they can cause some kind of physical disorders or physical illness. One type is psychosomatic disorders, like hypertension, inflammation, asthma, and also our immune system can become very vulnerable. So we cannot really resist to some kind of a bacteria or virus. So those are psychosomatic disorders. And the physical illness such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, headaches, because there's too much tension in our physical body. Our body is too rigid for reacting to stress. So there is more likely to have headaches or uh, pain in our body or in our back or some kind of pains. Maybe too much stress leads to shorter life. That's probably the very new findings from the scientists. And there can be more biochemical changes. For example, the digestion system in our stomach can be weaker when we are stressful. Because why? Because that's when there's stress, the neural system activates the fight or flight response. That is nothing about digestion. We need to run or fight with the dangerous animal or the threat. So at that moment, the digestion process is inhibited by the neural system or directly by the stress hormones. So that's one example how our physical body is changed because of the biochemical reactions. We can watch a video on YouTube right now to have more understanding of what stress do to us.
Cramming for a test, trying to get more done than you have time to do. Stress is a feeling we all experience when we are challenged or overwhelmed. But more than just an emotion, stress is a hardwired physical response that travels throughout your entire body. In the short term, stress can be advantageous, but when activated too often or too long, your primitive fight or flight stress response not only changes your brain, but also damages many of the other organs and cells throughout your body. Your adrenal gland releases the stress hormones cortisol, epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, and norepinephrine. As these hormones travel through your bloodstream, they easily reach your blood vessels and heart. Adrenaline causes your heart to beat faster and raises your blood pressure, over time causing hypertension. Cortisol can also cause the endothelium, or inner lining of blood vessels, to not function normally. Scientists now know that this is an early step in triggering the process of atherosclerosis, or cholesterol plaque buildup in your arteries. Together, these changes increase your chances of a heart attack or stroke. When your brain senses stress, it activates your autonomic nervous system. Through this network of nerve connections, your big brain communicates stress to your enteric or intestinal nervous system. Besides causing butterflies in your stomach, this brain-gut connection can disturb the natural rhythmic contractions that move food through your gut, leading to irritable bowel syndrome, and can increase your gut sensitivity to acid, making you more likely to feel heartburn. Via the gut's nervous system, stress can also change the composition and function of your gut bacteria, which may affect your digestive and overall health. Speaking of digestion, does chronic stress affect your waistline? Well, yes. Cortisol can increase your appetite. It tells your body to replenish your energy stores with energy-dense foods and carbs, causing you to crave comfort foods. High levels of cortisol can also cause you to put on those extra calories as visceral or deep belly fat. This type of fat doesn't just make it harder to button your pants. It is an organ that actively releases hormones and immune system chemicals called cytokines that can increase your risk of developing chronic diseases, such as heart disease and insulin resistance. Meanwhile, stress hormones affect immune cells in a variety of ways. Initially, they help prepare to fight invaders and heal after injury. But chronic stress can dampen the function of some immune cells, make you more susceptible to infections, and slow the rate you heal. Want to live a long life? You may have to curb your chronic stress. That's because it has even been associated with shortened telomeres, the shoelace tip ends of chromosomes that measure a cell's age. Telomeres cap chromosomes to allow DNA to get copied every time a cell divides without damaging the cell's genetic code, and they shorten with each cell division. When telomeres become too short, a cell can no longer divide, and it dies. As if all that weren't enough, chronic stress has even more ways it can sabotage your health, including acne, hair loss, sexual dysfunction, headaches, muscle tension, difficulty concentrating, fatigue, and irritability. So, what does all this mean for you? Your life will always be filled with stressful situations, but what matters to your brain and entire body is how you respond to that stress. If you can view those situations as challenges you can control.
Okay, so we can stop here. So from this video, you can see that different kinds of reactions that are problematic. Those reactions are actually from the fight or flight response. So we can see there's can be short life because the stress damaged the telomeres. The length of telomeres is really important for the length of our life. And also the fat can be accumulated in our body in responding to stress. And also we have a appetite for some high energy food, for the junk food. We can be fatter because of the stress. Uh, I know some people tend to eat a lot of high energy food, a lot of junk food like uh, burgers or some snacks that are not healthy or Coke. So that's a natural phenomenon in reacting to stress because we have a stronger appetite for those kind of food when we are really stressful, and it creates a vicious cycle. Actually, we have stress, and then we have an appetite for those junk food, and so there's more fat. We become fatter, and we there are more problems in the health in the physical bodies. Those healthy conditions, unhealthy conditions may create more stress, and there's a cycle that is going on over and over. Uh, so we can see there are different kinds of reactions in different parts of our physical body. In our mind, we have difficulty concentrating, and in our digestion system, it causes slower digestion, and also in our immune system, we have weaker immune system, and also in our blood vessels, there can be blockages in our blood vessels that cause the some kind of diseases. So all kinds of reactions, all kinds of problems that stress causes. Okay. And also, besides the physical health consequences, there can be psychological consequences. If there's too much stress in your life, it can cause it can cause the chronic stress. So chronic is long term, is really long term stress. So that kind of stress is not related to specific events. It's really normal that some kind of frustrating events cause stressful for a while, for 2 days or a week. That's really normal. But chronic stress does not come from those specific events. It comes from the fact that you are really stressful very often. And turns out that the body or the mind cannot go back to normal state or regular state. They're just the mind is just stressful all the time. So that's chronic stress. And of course, there can be anxiety. People are anxious about the future because there are some undesired or disturbing events happening that mess up life and what about the future? What to do in the future? That's really anxious. And also, one another psychological consequence is that is really similar to chronic stress. That is called burnout. There is a specific concept describing really long-term stress, which is burnout. So when people are burned out, it means that there are exhaustion in every aspect: physical aspect, emotional aspect, intellectual aspect, and psychological aspect. So in every aspect, there's exhaustion. It seems like the resources are running out. Physical resources running out. There's no energy, no physical energy. People get tired, get fatigued. Emotional resources are running out. There's no emotion to react to life. There's no happiness. There's no enthusiasm. There is even no other negative emotions. There are no emotions to react to life. And people cannot concentrate. People cannot work well. Their brains are not working well. They are not productive. They are not creative. The intellectual resources are running out. So there can be chronic fatigue. People are always getting tired. Weakness. People are weak. Their fixed bodies are weak. There's no energy. There's the physical and emotional resources are running out. There's feelings of helplessness and hopelessness. They feel that their life is hopeless. There's no hope in the future because they're running out of their psychological resources. And also nothing can help improve their situations in life. They have that kind of feeling because their spiritual or psychological resources are gone, are exhausted. So this is called burnout. Burnout is not from a specific event. In other words, no specific events can cause people to have a burnout, but it's a long-term effect of expressing too much stress in life. Gradually, people will be burnout. Gradually, any kinds of resources are running out, and they don't have any kind of resources to have a normal life anymore. So that's symptoms of burnout. And one example of the psychological consequences of stress, if people cannot cope with stress very well, is called a post-traumatic stress disorder. Probably we have learned that in Psych 1 class, but we can mention again here. It's really an extreme example, extreme situation that people oftentimes for the people who have PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, they might have met really severe trauma or really severe accidents or really severe traumatic events earlier in life, such as car accidents, such as rape, such as military battles, such as other really severe situations that, for example, they might witness some kind of murders. Some people are killed in front of their eyes, in front of them. They might suffer from PTSD as well. So in real life, a lot of the people who had a car accidents and also for some children who have really bad parents or really bad caregivers, their caregivers or parents abuse them a lot when the children are young. So children may suffer from PTSD. And also some veterans that came from the actual military battles, such as the veterans of Vietnam War. A lot of them suffer from the PTSD. It's a anxiety disorder. There are two anchors about suffering from those traumatic events, suffering from they may really anxious that they might meet those kind of events again over and over. They cannot get rid of the threats from those kind of events. And the symptoms can be really severe. They, in their mind, they may re-experience the trauma again and again. They may have nightmares about that event. For example, the veterans may have the nightmares of fighting with enemies in the war. And also they got injured or they got killed or they kill other people. That's really cruel. So they may experience those situations in their mind again, in nightmares or in daytime. When they are awake, they may imagine they're in that kind of a situation. it's really compulsive. They cannot control that. They do not want to re-experience those events again and again, but it's like a video player that plays that same kind of video again and again. They cannot stop that video player. They cannot shut down that video player. Their video player is out of control, playing the same kind of a video all the time. And also there's in the physical body, they can have the experience that some body parts are numb. They cannot feel their body. And also there's hyperarousal. They're too sensitive to some kind of a stimuli in life. I can think of one example. That is a movie, but it's based on the true scenario. So there's a veteran coming from the war, and she cannot see the knives, any kind of a sharp tools like knives or chicken knives or swords or other kinds of sharp tools. So she cannot go to the kitchen because she will see the kitchen knives. Every time she see the kitchen knives, she cannot handle it. And also another example of hyperarousal is that some veterans from the war, they cannot hear really, they cannot hear slightly louder sounds. So if there's some like a loud noise, suddenly there's a loud noise. For example, the iron pot drops to the ground. So there's a noise, right? So they cannot hear that. They hear that, they feel like there's a war, there's a bomb exploding around them. So they're too scared about this noises. Actually, the noise of dropping the pot on the ground is okay. It's not really loud, but they think that they perceive that that's too loud. That's not like the sound of the bombing. So that's hyperarousal. And also they cannot have a regular life. They cannot even work. They cannot even go to school because they are too sensitive. There's numbing. They cannot concentrate on working or study because they're too much. There's the video player is playing all the time in their mind. So that's the symptoms of PTSD. So PTSD is really extreme example of stress. And we have talked about the symptoms of stress, both psychological and physical. And then next topic, we can talk about individual differences in responding to stress. So even though there's all kinds of events that cause people to have to be stressful, that causes different reactions, but sometimes the same stress cause different reactions to different people. It means that the different people react to the same stress differently. So sometimes for some people, those kind of stressful events are not really severe. It's okay for them. They're okay to handle this kind of stressful events, but for some other people, they cannot handle these stressful events. So there are individual differences. People are different. So why there are individual differences? Why some people can react to the stress very well? Why some people have less negative consequences when they have stress? So what is the reason? so we can talk about this. There's an important concept called resilience. It's a characteristic of people. It's a capacity or ability to recover from stressful events or bounce back from major stressful events. And the people have high resilience. There are negative effects of stress on them, either physical health or psychological reactions. They can quickly become normal after they met the stressful events. For example, I may have a failure in the exam, in the test. And if I'm a really highly resilient, I can recover from that kind of failure within 2 days. So after 2 days of the test, I'm okay. I'm happy. I do not care about the last test score. So that's the example of high resilience. But people with low resilience, like I got really bad score on the test today. I cannot deal with that. I cannot recover. So even in 2 weeks, I still sad. I feel still sad. I'm still stressful about my academic performance. So that may be an example of low resilience. So resilience refers to the capacity, the possibility to recover from the major stressful events quickly or not, with less effects, with less negative effects. And the next question is why some people are highly resilient. They can recover from stress really quickly. Why some people are not really resilient. So they have one difference. That difference is called hardness. So hardness is also a characteristic that describes the people's differences. So what is hardness? What are features or characteristics of hardy people? So the first characteristic of hardy people is that they have an appetite for challenges. They love challenges. They love every challenge in their life that they meet. Why is that? Because they perceive that those challenges as the chances to grow, the chances to be better instead of threats. So they do not see those challenges as threats. If I have a bad score on the test in school, that's a challenge. That's not a threat. Hardy people think that, oh, this is a challenge. I need to work harder next time. And the second characteristic of the hardy people is that they are really committed to the goals that they want to achieve. So they clearly know that what kind of things that they want to achieve, what kind of goals they have. They are really clear about that, and also they are really committed to the goals. It means that no matter what, they want to achieve the goal. They try every effort to achieve that goal. So that's a strong commitment. So they have a strong sense of commitment. And the third characteristic of the hardy people is that they have a belief that they can influence the events that are occurring in their life. They can control their own destiny. They can control how things happen in their life. That's their belief. This is called internal locus of control. So locus means location. So locus control literally means the location of control. So where's the location of control? Who controls the event? Who controls the consequences of those events in the life? External reasons like other people or other supernatural beings or environment chances control the event, might control the consequences of those events. However, there can be internal location of control. For example, myself, I control the effects of I control the consequences of the events. I can control what happened and what cannot happen. So if I have a belief that I can control the life events, that's called the internal locus of control instead of external locus of control. Yeah, so hardy people tend to have an internal locus of control. They believe that they can influence the life events. They can influence how the events go. So the hardy people with these characteristics are highly resilient. They like challenges. They are really committed to the goals. They have an internal locus of control. So it makes sense because you see the challenges as chances instead of threats. You may not have the fight or flight response, right? So the assumption to generate the fight or flight response is that people must perceive there is a threat in the life. If that event is not threat, there's no stress. So that's why one of the reasons for why hardy people are highly resilient, because they do not have reactions to those events. And also they are really committed because they do not really think about the negative consequences of those stressful events. They just do whatever they want to achieve that goal. They can adjust themselves really quickly to achieving that goal. And if they believe that they can control, they can influence the life events, they do not feel that anxious or they do not feel that awful because they believe that, oh, if something bad happens, it's okay. I can still influence that. I can still influence how the event is going. So I can still do something to change the negative consequences, replace the negative consequences of that event with the good ones. So that's why people with highly hardy people are not that stressful. They can recover quickly from the stressful events. So I think that these characteristics you can compare, you can see if you can have a self-reflection to see if you have those three characteristics or not. Because those three things really help you to recover from stress, to cope with the stress. You can intentionally develop those three things, the three things in your life. For example, you can directly adjust the view of challenges. If you view some, you meet some challenges in your life, at that moment, you can tell yourself whether this challenge is a chance to grow or is a threat. It can be a threat. It can be a chance. It depends on how you perceive it, how to interpret it, how to understand it. If you find some elements in the challenge that can be changes, you can find those elements and change your belief about that challenge. So that's one example. Okay, so let's go to the next part. Next part is about the management or responses of stress. So first of all, let's ask you a question. What do you respond to stress in life? How do you respond to stress in life? What are your methods or strategies to overcome or reduce stress in your life? You can pause the video right now and think about the answers. You can summarize your different strategies to cope with the stress. So first of all, let's talk about the responses that are not adaptive, or the responses that are not working well. So if just intentionally changing the perceptions of events uh, without taking care of the facts, that is a really negative response. That's a response that we do not recommend. That's the If we just intentionally distort the perceptions of that event, that's not good. That's not the realistic attitude toward the stress. Another one is lying to ourselves, to the self. That's not about. That's not a really good response to stress as well, because the stress is real. The stressful events are real. It's always there. You cannot remove them in your life if you lie to yourself. And other responses can include too much drinking, being drunk intentionally, eating too much alcohol, drinking too much alcohol, and then taking drugs. And maybe there are more responses that are not working well. So binge drinking, taking drugs, lying to self, distorting the perception. These responses actually help people ignoring the fact. If they ignore the facts, that's not a good response. So the good response uh, must be some responses that people are facing the reality, but instead of escaping from the reality, because we cannot just get rid of the reality, the fact. We must face the reality. So these responses are not working well. So there are a lot of responses actually to reduce stress successfully. The first strategy is called modifying the self-talk. So sometimes we think a lot in our mind when we have stress. It's called it can be called self-talk. We talk to ourselves in our mind. We can change the content of the self-talk. First of all, you can change the beliefs, uh, change the assumptions in your mind. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about life scripts. We talk about injunctions. So there are a lot of injunctions in your mind. So those are assumptions or values about the world. It's about how the world should be like. Those beliefs are really fixed and they are really rigid. We cannot easily change them, but it's still possible for us to change those injunctions and the previous values that we have. We may change our beliefs to adapt to the new situation. Sometimes we see some events as threats. That's because we don't believe those events should happen. Those events are contradicting or conflicting with our values, with our assumptions about the world. If our assumptions or values that we held for many years have been challenged, we may feel the threat. May not feel may not feel the actual physical threat or any other kind of threats in the life, in the environment, but we have a feeling that our values that we emphasize have been challenged because the situations, the reality is different from the values that we have. So in this situation, we why not change the belief, change those values that we have. And also we can identify some kind of beliefs that are not accurate, not rational. So when we talk about irrational beliefs, we can think about REBT. So that's the method to deal with injunctions. That is what we talked about 2 weeks ago. We can use the principles of REBT to identify and remove those irrational beliefs. And also sometimes we need a better time management. Sometimes the time is running out. We do not have enough time to do the things that we want to do. So at this moment, we need a better time management to manage our time, to manage our life. So sometimes we are doing too many things at the same time. Sometimes we procrastinate a lot. We do not, during that period, we do not do anything. And later we found that there too much to do within a too shorter time period. So that's not a really good use of time. So at this moment, we need to have more skills to manage time. There are some suggestions from the textbook from the authors. So let's look at them. First step is to set up a goals. So you need to know your long-term goals. You need to know where you want to go. You need to know what you want to achieve, what you want to get long-term. So you need to have your long-term goals. And also you need to decide which part is more prioritized, which parts can be done later that is not really prioritized. So you need to decide which one need to be done immediately, must be done, and some parts can be postponed, some parts can be done later. And with knowing your long-term goals, you need to divide the long-term goals into smaller goals. Those goals can be shorter term. So long-term goals can be can be broken into smaller short-term goals, and you can develop a plan for how to realizing those goals, different steps with different priorities. And also the next principle is be realistic. Sometimes you cannot achieve those goals in the really short time. You need to know that. You need to identify what goals are realistic, what goals for you can be achieved within that kind of time period. And also you can create a schedule such as the daily planner. You can create a schedule which day, on this day, today, what kind of things you do to achieve what kind of goals. And the next day, what kind of things can be done to achieve what kind of goals. It can be a daily planner, can be a weekly planner, can be a monthly planner. And also you can plan by yourself, but you can also get help from others. Sometimes you cannot achieve those goals. It's better to get help from other people to see what other people can provide you. And also work. It's a work, but you can still enjoy the entire process. You can focus on the process instead of the outcomes. If we're focusing on outcomes too much, make you stressful, make you anxious. If you enjoy the process, it's a really enjoyable process to experience. So experience is more important than outcomes. And also do not multitask too much. So it means that you can focus on doing one thing at one time. For example, today I'm just achieving this goal. this smaller goal. The next day, if this thing has been done, I focus on the next thing. Do not do too much at the same time because it overwhelm you and also make you really anxious and stressful. So this is about time management. So these are just really brief principles. And if you really want to implement these suggestions, I think it's a long-term thing. It's actually help you to build the habit of managing time effectively. Okay, so let's go to next suggestion. Next suggestion is about the relaxation, the deep relaxation. Let your mind get relaxed deeply. So one way is to learn how to breathe, have a really good breath. Because breathing controls negative emotions. Breathing can help you get rid of those negative emotions. Because the breathing with a certain pace can help you calm down. Go to the go to calmness, calm down to so you can be calm instead of having all those kind of negative emotions. Can help you less aroused, and also there can be some kind of muscle relaxation. So there are some instructions in the textbook from page 170 to page 171. So you can look at the instructions on these 2 pages and really practice how to have a deep relaxation of your physical body. So you can do it later after the lecture. And the next response is meditation. Also, it's also a practice that help you to have a deep relaxation of your mind. So in meditation, our mind, withdraw attention from the stimuli that are happening in the external world. So we do not focus on the external world stimuli anymore. In meditation, we focus on our inner spiritual world. We focus on what is happening in our own mind. What is happening in our mind? What is happening in our emotion? What is happening in our heart, and so forth. And also because we do not really focus our attention to the external world, and also we have less thoughts about the future and the past. We focus on our own body and the current moment. We focus on what is happening in the current moment. So we can have a less thoughts about what may happen in the future or what has happened in the past. So it's a really deep relaxation in a really short period of time. The physical body can be relaxed because the body doesn't have to react to external stimuli anymore. The body doesn't have to react to the future anymore. Doesn't have to react to the past anymore. And also there's less mental distractions. In meditation, we are really focused. So in this state or in meditation, meditation can bring lots of benefits. Can be less stress, can be less physical and psychological fatigue. We do not get really tired because we focus on our own body and the current moment only. We we do not have to have reactions or spend our energy reacting to external world or the past or future. And because of that, there's more space in our mind. So there's higher awareness. We can be highly aware of ourselves. We can be highly aware what is happening in our own body. Of course, there's a better concentration and memory because we do not really use a lot of cognitive resources to reacting those all kinds of useless external stimuli. And there is more patience because as the same principle, we have more resources in our mind. And also we have better empathy for others because we focus on what is happening in our mind. We can connect ourselves with our feelings. Have feelings in our body. We can feel the feelings. We can have more vivid experiences of what is happening in our mind so that our capacity, our ability to have empathy for others can be enhanced as well. So overall, we have a better capacity for empathy for both ourselves and other people. And there's less stress because the stress can be removed. So there's less negative consequences coming from stress. So have you heard any or engaged in any meditation practices? So you can think about those experiences. So the next response that works to manage stress is mindfulness. So mindfulness is really close to meditation. So meditation is more like a practice. It's a practice that help you manage your attention or manage your mind. And the mindfulness is a state. So in meditation, people are mindful. Of course, that's the purpose of meditation. So meditation can help you to be mindful. Mindfulness is a state of mind. So in mindfulness, or when we are mindful, we can be aware of stimuli from external world or from internal world. In the present moment, we do not focus on the past or the future. We do not ignore the information from the world, from the reality. We do not distort them. We just accept any information as they are. So the common characteristic between mindfulness and meditation is that they both focus on being aware of the present moment instead of the past and the future. Actually, past and the future are not real. You can think about it. That's more philosophical. The future means something that has not happened yet. So we do not know what happened in the future because they are not coming yet. I think the future is something in our mind. Our mind can understand what the future is. It's like a simulation. It's not real. What is real is the present moment. In the future, what might happen in the future, it's just a simulation, imagination in our mind. If we spend too much energy or too much attention on those simulated situations, of course we are stressful. Of course we do not have a lot of energy, where our resources are running out. And the past is also not real because it has passed. It's our memory. it's some information stored in the memory system in our mind. So it's also a simulation. It's also a imagination, just a stored information in our mind. It's not real. If we are too disturbed by the memory, of course that causes stress and also other healthy problems. So mindfulness and meditation help us to focus on the present moment, get rid of negative influences from the past and the future. Yeah, so similar to meditation, mindfulness can help us to clear the mind and calm the body. Here's some basic principles we have talked about 2 weeks ago and this week just now. First one is that we do not judge those information. We just accept the information as they are. We are open to each moment. We just open to the reality. We do not. We just open to everything in the present moment in reality. And also, we see everything as if we look at those things for the first time. How to understand this principle? So it's tricky. So sometimes we see the same thing for many times. We go to work every day, for example, we see this exactly same scenario on the road, on the way. Um, Sometimes we see them a lot, very often. We get bored with them because these things are the same all the time. Um, Actually, it's a fact that we have the past memory. We think that we see the same thing is because we have the memory of yesterday, of 2 days ago, of 3 days ago. We have the past memory. The present moment is interfering with, or the past memory is interfering with the present moment. That's why we see everything, we see something, the same thing again and again. We think that they are the same thing. From rational beliefs, they are the same things, but they are new at that current moment. It means things are changing all the time at every moment. It's more philosophical. It's difficult to understand, but it's true. Everything is changing all the time. The situations are changing all the time at every moment. We think they are the same things, but they are not. For example, our physical body, we might see the same people every day. We think that they are the same because but they have changed slightly. They have updated their own thoughts. They have new emotions at every moment. And also their physical body is changing all the time because the cells in the human bodies are updated or regenerated every moment. Old cells die and new cells emerge. Old cells die, new cells emerge. So about around every 20 days, every cell in our physical body has changed for at least one time. It means that every 20 days, our physical body is totally new. It seems like they look the same. This person looks the same all the time. But the cells in the entire body have been changed. It's just because we think something is the same all the time. It's our perception. But it's a difference. So we see totally new things every moment. And also there is a saying that you cannot pass the same river for twice. You may say, oh, this river is like this. It runs with this direction all the time, but it's not the same. The water in the river is totally new at every moment. So you cannot pass the same river for twice. Every time you pass the river, it's a new river. And you pass it for twice, it's a different river. It's a new river. So just feel like you see everything as you see it as the first time. At that, in that situation, you may find new things on the same thing every time. And also trust the intuitions, because intuitions come from the experience, come from the feelings. So focus on your feelings, connect yourself with your internal feelings. And if you trust them, they bring some accurate information to you, because your body is also intelligent. That's really interesting and magic. Not only your brain is intelligent, but your body, your feeling is also intelligent. And the next, accept things. Yes, accept every information as it is, just to not ignore them or distort them. Some thoughts are occurring in your mind. Let it be. Let it occur in your mind. And some thoughts go. Let it go. You do not to like really hesitate like some thoughts are coming and go. It's normal. It's our minds are always changing. Thoughts come and go. That's it. Just we just accept the fact. So these are the basic principles of mindfulness. You can practice yourself in everyday life with these basic principles. And there is a practice online. It's called a loving kindness meditation. So let's play the video a little bit and see what it can be.
Allow yourself to get comfortable. Relax your shoulders. Relax your eyes. Relax your jaw. You can be seated or lying down for this meditation. Today we'll be exploring metta, or loving kindness. Through this metta meditation, we'll be exploring the cultivation of feelings of compassion, feelings of loving kindness for yourself and for others. So allow yourself to relax and notice how your breath feels right now. Simply watch your breath. Notice the texture of your breathing. Notice the rate of your breathing. Notice the depth of your breathing. There's no need to change it. Simply observe. And bring your awareness to your chest, to your heart. Place your awareness there as you continue to watch your breath. Notice what it feels like to breathe into your chest, to breathe into your heart. Simply place all of your awareness right there in the center of your chest. Now slowly and silently repeat this phrase in your mind. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be comfortable and at peace. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be comfortable and at peace. Continue to repeat these words in your mind and in your heart. Notice any subtle changes that occur and how you feel. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be comfortable and at peace. Continue to breathe into your heart. Continue to repeat those words. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be comfortable and at peace.
Okay, we can pause the video here, and if you want to practice mindfulness and meditation, you can do it later. It's there's a link of the video on the last slide. Yeah, here you can copy and paste on the browser and watch the video. And I think it's a really good practice. And also there are other videos or other courses and other practices, other different forms of medication. So you can look for those resources online. So let's go to the next part. Next response is yoga. Yoga is a practice coming from ancient India. It's I think it's practice you need to move your body. You need to maintain specific posture for a specific time period. And I'm not really familiar with this practice, but it's a practice that involves the body and also the mind. Okay, so the basic principle of yoga is to use the mind to focus on the movements of the body or the postures of the body. There are two important concepts related to yoga. So the first concept is non-attachment. It means that the physical body is constantly changing. So that's really similar to the principle, one of the principles that we talk about in mindfulness, that you never go across the same river for twice. So the things are always changing, so it's not the same. Also, your body is always changing. There's always some kind of a new information coming to your mind. And the second concept about yoga is non-violence. So in yoga, people are not violent to themselves, are not violent to other people, peaceful. And yeah, I think that's really interesting. And there are other practices that work to reduce the stress as well. Pilates is a kind of a physical exercises paired with some kind of breathing technique. I'm not really familiar with Pilates. You can find some resources online to know more about what Pilates are. And there's Tai Chi is a traditional Chinese martial art. It's a kind of martial art. You can in ancient times it's a way to fight with enemies, but right now it's a form of exercise, or it's a form of body movement like yoga that help you to reduce stress, to exercise, and so forth. So the Tai Chi, this martial art, is very gentle. The movement of Tai Chi is very gentle. It's very flowing. It's not really intense and fast. It's really slow, gentle. It's really the movements are really smoothly flowing. And also the breathing is very important too. So breathing really help you to calm down, calm your mind down. The next one is massage. So you can rely on other people to relax your own body. Also, there's one way it's called acupuncture. So it's also relying on external help. So it's come from it's a practice of traditional Chinese medicine. So the exact way is that there are some needles, really tiny needles that apply the needles on the bodies. And in the traditional Chinese medicine philosophy, there is a system called Jingluo. So in this system, it's like a neural system, but it's different from neural system. There's a system in their entire body, and there are channels that are Jingluo in the body, and there are different points on these channels. If you use the needles to stimulate the channels in the body, the stuff in the Jingluo system can flow better, can move better. So because they're in the Jingluo system, there can be some kind of blockages, like the blockage is in blood vessels, but it's not blood vessel. It's not a neural system. It's another system. It seems like there are some stuff, your energy or like qi in the Jingluo system, in the channels. There are some blockages in the channel. If you use the needles to stimulate the points, different points in the channels in the system, the blockages can be broken and moved away, so it flows better. But it's not a discovery in the modern science. Modern science people cannot find such a system in the body. But that is what is interesting, in that it really helps. This kind of practice, use needles to stimulate some parts of the body, really help. That's really interesting. Like, you cannot find evidence with modern science, but this practice actually works. So that's acupuncture. Yeah. So that's all the stuff about the methods. You can see there are different kinds of methods. There's mindfulness, meditation. There's the relaxation, there's changing the time management, there's changing your perceptions about the world, and also there's some kind of physical exercise like pilates, tai chi, and also you can rely on other people like doing massage and acupuncture. There are different kinds of methods. Okay, so this is the end of the lecture. Here's some key points to know about for this week. First of all, stress. What is stress? And the second, what are sources of stress? At least you know some kind of examples from the environment, from your own mind. And the 3 types of internal conflicts. Fight or flight response, that's response from the nervous system that reacts to the threats in life. And there can be consequences of the stress, physical illness, and also psychological problems. One of them is burnout. There are individual differences of reacting to stress. So it involves the concept of resilience and hardiness. And the next are the suggestions to reduce the stress. So you need to know the suggestions of time management, and also what meditation is, what mindfulness is. So here are the key points for this week. And also you need to write the journal for this week. So let's go to the journal. Okay, so this time we'll write journal 5. It's about managing stress. So when you see this assignment in the future next 7 days, notice the stressful situations that you will encounter in the next 7 days. Be mindful, be notice about those stressful events, stressful situations. Try to use the suggestions that from the textbook, from the lecture, to cope with the stress, to reduce the stress. So you can actually use the methods that are introduced in the lecture to reduce the stress that you might meet in the next 7 days. And after that, after using the stress, using those strategies, you can write a journal. So in the journal, you answer 4 questions. The first question is, to what degree was the situation stressful because of your thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions about events? What are the thoughts? So the first question is asking about what kind of thoughts or beliefs, assumptions cause this kind of a stressful situation. And the second question is that are there any factors in the environment that cause the stressful situation? And what are the environmental factors? So the first question is asking the factors inside of your mind. And the second question is asking some factors outside of yourself, some factors in the environment. And the third question is about the effect. How are you affected? What are the symptoms or phenomena that you can see from yourself to be influenced by the stress? And the last question is like, what stresses do you use to reduce stress? Are they really effective or no? Not. You can talk about this in the journal. So remember that this journal is starting from the first day of this week, March 8th, but you have 2 weeks to finish the journal because you need to use 7 days to notice your stressful situations. So it's due at March 21st. So it's actually next Sunday, not this Sunday. next Sunday. So be mindful of that. So there are 4 questions. No, first question is 2 points. The second question is 1 point. The third question, how are you affected, is 3 points, and the first question is 3 points. Okay, that's it. So let's have a good week, and let's meet next week. Next week we'll talk about love, and that's also another really interesting topic. And see you guys next week.